I'm Heidi with Broadmeadow Farm, and today I'm going to be working in my perennial patch, pulling out a little bit of quackgrass and dandelions here and there. Hey everyone, it's Heidi with Broadmeadow Farm. I thought I would take you on my gardening day. I'm working in my little perennial patch here in front of the house, and we're going to be working on cleaning out some of the dead stalks that I never got to earlier this spring, as well as going through, I have some Artemisia, which is also called Silver King sage, that tends to spread a little bit if you don't take care of it every year. We'll just kind of work through the garden, pulling up some weeds so you can have an idea of what a typical garden is in Alberta. This here is Silver King sage, and it tends to get a little bit overrun. You can see that it's starting to grow out. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to pull up some of these extra runners that are coming, and just to control some of this bed. So this is that same patch of Silver King sage. I've just kind of controlled it a little bit more and kept it to a manageable size. So this here is my delphinium, and if you come in, you can actually see here I've got a bunch of grass growing, so we're going to get rid of that. Today I've got kind of a claw rake that I'll just kind of loosen in here. We're lucky in that this is actually just an annual grass. It's not quackgrass, so it's really easy to pull out. The other thing we're going to get in here is we're going to pull out all of the dead stalks that we didn't get out this spring. Again, you'd want to do this a little bit earlier in the season because it's less likely that you're going to damage anything that's coming up from the ground and coming new. So this here is Sedum Autumn Joy, and typically in the spring what I would do is I would cut down these stalks, but what I ended up doing is forgetting. So today we're just going to cut down. I've got my Felco Pruner, and I'm just going to get in here and start cutting off the dead stalks. I want to make sure that I'm really careful about nicking this new growth. It is a succulent, and so it is quite soft. Just get in here and come and cut off the stalks. One of the questions you might ask is, how do I deal with dandelions when they're in the middle of my perennials? Is you just got to get right in there carefully. So for this one, it's actually right here down in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my trowel. I'm just going to loosen the soil a little bit around. Now you might not get the entire root out of this one because it's so tight in there. So I'm just going to carefully find where the leaves are and just start pulling. I got a leaf, but I didn't get the stalk of that one. So we'll get in there again and we'll just pull a little bit more. There we go. Now I wasn't able to get the entire root, but I got a good substantial portion of it, and what that's going to do is it's going to help keep this plant a little bit cleaner. And now that I'm a little closer, this plant here is a Trolleus, and it's going to have a nice globe-like yellow flower in it. These weeds here are the prime candidate just to get hoed out instead of letting them get big enough that you actually have to pull them out. So you can either take your little hand trowel and just kind of rooch those up, or if you're standing up, that's when you can use the garden hoe and give them a really good raking. All you're trying to do is disturb the soil surface and get all of these little roots broke up, and then the air will dry them out and they'll die off. For weeds that are a little bit more established, this is when you're going to have to use your spade. Let's talk about some of the most used tools that I have in my garden. Just your basic rake, hoe, spade shovel, trowel rake, and a couple different pruners. One of the things I really like about the Felco Pruners is that they are extremely durable and they've got exchangeable parts. These are the two Felcos that I use. This one is probably my most favorite. It's a Felco number 2. This is the locking gear, and you can loosen that and you can remove this blade completely for cleaning, for sharpening. If it gets to where you've nicked something really bad and you've got a nick there in the blade, you can actually buy a replacement blade. This spring also can come out for cleaning and for replacement. This one is really nice for trimming cut flowers or the small soft tissue that you need to do in the garden. This one is not for cutting twigs or anything. This is purely a soft tissue pruner. This is the hoe that I actually like to use. It's an all metal handle and it's in painted orange. And the reason I went with an all metal hoe is that I have been known, and the kids have been known, to leave our tools out in the garden. And if you have a wooden handled tool, it tends to blend in with the soil. But what I'm finding is the orange handle kind of draws our attention and we're less likely to leave it out in the garden. The other thing that's really nice about it is you see how tall it is. It helps me to do any amount of garden weeding without stooping over. Ideally with the perennial bed, you want to make sure that it's weed free and then include some mulch over top. Bark mulch is probably my favorite mulch, and what it does is it keeps the weeds down, but it also helps to keep any moisture in, and especially if you have a hot, dry summer, when you do water it, that's going to be able to lock the moisture in. I enjoy sharing tips and tricks about gardening and simple living. Thanks for stopping by.